Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve raising interest rate once again. So as everyone knows, during the 2020 pandemic, a lot of businesses, a lot of people were out of work. The country was basically shut down for the most part. So the Federal Reserve basically came in, dropped interest rate, and basically flooded the market with money, with cash. Credit was cheap. People were buying houses because the rates were so low. In the process, that created a lot of inflation. The Federal Reserve is continuing to raise rates. What impact is that going to have on the market? What impact is that going to do on housing? How long are the Feds going to continue to raise interest rate for? And what will be the effect of that? And what is their goal? Where are they trying to basically land this whole thing? And what is that going to look like? All right, let's take a look. Okay, so now we see the headlines from CNBC. It reads, Fed raises rates by another 3/4 of a percentage point, pledges more hike to fight inflation. So the Federal Reserve mandate is to fight inflation, keep the monetary system, keep the money solvent. Basically what he wants to do is, what the Federal Reserve would like to do is basically bring inflation down or bring it back down to a 2% level. And the Fed is going to keep raising interest rates until they get there. Now check this out. Along with the massive rate increases, the intention of continuing to hike until the funds level hits a terminal rate or endpoint of 4.6% in 2023. That implies a 1/4 point rate hike next year, but no decreases. So basically the Fed is going to keep raising rates until basically they cause a recession. Jerome Powell would like to get inflation back down to 2%. All right, and in a recent speech, he said, no one knows whether this process will lead to a recession, or if so, how significant that recession will be. The hikes also come with the hopes that headline inflation would drift down to 5.4% this year, as measured by the Fed Preferred Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index, which shows inflation at 6.3% in July. The summary of economic projection then sees inflation falling back to the Fed's 2% goal by 2025. So it looks like the Fed is going to basically keep the rates at the level that they are right now, no rate cuts until they reach the level of inflation that's comfortable for them. This is basically where they want it. So they basically want inflation anywhere between 2% and 2.5%. All right, let's continue reading. Core inflation, excluding food and energy, is expected to decline to 4.5% this year, little change from the current 4.6% level, before ultimately falling to 2.1% by 2025. Jerome Powell is also worried that raising rates by this much, that fast, can cause a recession. Okay, so the only problem is we don't know how severe this recession is going to be. And by the looks of things, it looks like the Fed want to keep rates basically pretty high until they get that inflation number to where they want it. So now the other question is going on is, not only is this having an impact on the stock market, but it's also having an impact on the housing market. Now, some people may say, well, you know what, this is a great thing. Home prices has been out of control. Home prices have been crazy because the rates are so low. People can borrow more money. This might be an opportunity for me to basically buy a house. So what effect is this having on the housing market? Let's take a look at the New York Times article. Mortgage rates hit 7%. Housing prices expected to fall. With mortgage rates soaring, the housing market takes another hit. Again, so I did a video about this, all right? So you are going to see corrections in the housing market, but it's not, not all markets are equal, all right? So all across the board, you're gonna see some adjustments. Prices are gonna cool. Housing might stay on the market a little longer than they did when the rates were a lot lower. But where you'll see a huge drop in some regions, in some areas, in other areas, you might see a little bit more of a modest drop and not so sharp and not so intense. So let's take a look at this article. So according to Mortgage News Daily, a popular industry gauge of the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage reached 7.8% on Tuesday. Another survey by the Mortgage Bankers Association showed the rate averaging 6.52%, the highest reading since mid-2008. Freddie Mac placed it at 6.7%, up from 3.1% during the same week last year. Okay, so just to give you contrast, so about a year ago the rates were about 3%. The average rate was 3%. That means like some people got lower. So a year later we're at 6%. In some areas about as high as 7%. So as you can imagine, that is going to have an effect on the housing market. Higher borrowing costs have already begun to cut into sales. Existing home sales in August were down nearly 20% from August 2021, according to the National Association of Realtors, a trade group. So basically we're tracking this thing here, prices are dropping. Again, we're not going to see what we saw in 2008. I think a lot of people are waiting for that. A lot of people think or feel that maybe we're gonna see a housing crash or a housing correction as big as we saw in '08. The numbers are not showing that. The data is not showing that right now at this moment. All right, so let's keep reading. Prices, while moderating, remain high in many markets because inventory is still far below pre-pandemic levels, said Loris Young, the group's chief economist. And many who bought homes in the last 2 years, having locked in some of the best mortgage rates on record, are unlikely to trade up to a new property now, which will limit the supply of homes coming to market. So even though the rates are going down, even though the rates are going up and homes are staying longer in the market to sell because of lack of inventory, in some areas, again, in some areas of the country, you will see that correction. Florida, Texas, parts of San Diego, these markets basically exploded. All right, so now they're coming back down to earth. You will see that. But the amount of inventory, the amount of homes that are available to buy is still going to be relatively low. So then the prices will stabilize. It will come to a point where it stabilizes. I mean, we're gonna hit a bottom. I don't know where that bottom is. I don't think we've actually begun yet to see the correction in pricing, but it's not going to be like 2008. Homeowners who have great rates are not gonna sell that house to go buy another house with a higher interest rate. Even though the house might be cheaper, it doesn't make sense. The median home sales price in Austin metro area peaked at $555,000 in April 2022, an astounding 71% increase from April 2020. One of the key things you wanna look at when you're buying a home or an area to determine whether that area is basically overpriced or if you're gonna see a correction in the pricing in that certain area. Basically, you have to look at how fast these housing, how fast is the jump as far as like pricing, how fast that's going up, and what's causing that, right? Is it because people are just buying or just moving into this neighborhood because they like it and so they're spending money, or jobs being created, or industries moving into this area, or there are going to be new tech, or going to be new professionals, or going to be young people. Those markets, you're gonna see correction in those markets, but not as much as this place here in Austin, where a year ago, in April 2020, where a year ago it was from 2020 to 2022, you saw a 71% increase in pricing. That is unsustainable, and there's no reason for it. There's nothing that's coming to the area that's justifying this price increase. So naturally, you will see a correction as it goes. When the median sales price was $325,000, according to Redfin data, but since April, the median price has declined every month, landing at $500,000 in August. So what do you think? Do you think that the Fed will cause a really major recession that's gonna really break the market as far as like the stock market goes? Or do you think the real estate market is gonna go back down to what we saw back in 2008? So let me know what you think. Leave a comment in the section below. Guys, if you like this content, it does take me a lot of time to research and put this content together for you guys. If you do like it, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and let me know what you think.